I've got 2 o'clock on the East Coast, so we're going to get the ball rolling with everyone that's here, and I'm guessing more are going to be rolling in, but we're going to go ahead and get started. And we're going to start out with something really simple here today. I do want to do a poll here, and I want to get people answering some questions because I'm going to ask some questions as we go along. So these are all anonymous. I have no idea who is answering what, but let's start out with something real easy. Are you having a good day? You can answer that. The second question is, are you a member of the Facebook community group? And then thirdly, where are you located? And I gave some ranges. And unfortunately, I did not put international on there. I did not account for Canada and South Africa. So if you are inclined to answer in those areas, pick the place that's closest to you. We'll go with that. These are not scientific. I'm not turning these over to any governing body. They are just to get the ball rolling going here today. We are already over 100 participants. The good news is nobody is having so bad a day that they're looking for coffee or something harder. It looks like at least half the people it's a great day or they're getting things done. So that makes me believe people are in a fairly pleasant mood. I will do my best not to bring you down. And it looks like we have about 50% of people are in the Facebook community group. And if you don't know about that, Max, why don't you do me a favor and in the chat window, can you post that URL to the Facebook community group just so people know that they're there? There are already over 1,000 members of the Facebook community group. And I think primarily it is a great way to communicate with other people that are in your world. I see people posting questions on there all the time. So that's a really good thing. Lastly, it looks like people are almost evenly spread out all over the country. So that is good. All right, I'm going to end that poll. Most of you have responded to that. And I'll share there's the results for everybody to see. And excellent. So I'm going to stop sharing that and let's go back. All right. I think let's do this. I'm going to throw out one more here before we get started. I'm just curious, are you a user of our software or do you use an RMS system or are you using some other system? Just curious is the makeup of all the people that are in here. Ooh, I love this. They're rolling in. 70 out of 120 have responded. And so far, 55% are safe users, 27% are using an RMS system, and 18% are using some other system. All right, I'm going to give that another 10 seconds. Max, do we have any questions coming in I need to deal with, or are we ready to get started?
No questions. However, it looks like the chat is just for hosts and panelists. So I don't see a way that I can share that link, but I posted it to you. If you have the ability to, then that link is
that
in the
is
chat.
interesting. I do see that in there. Let me see. I don't know. How about this? I'm going to try this. I'm going to reopen David Bragg's answer, and I'm going to type an answer, but I think that just goes to him. So let me try that. I posted an answer. I don't know if anybody can see that in the QA window. We're new to the Zoom platform, so we're figuring this out as we go along, but I responded to one of David's questions in there and posted that on there. If not, we'll get that out to everybody when we're done. I'm not going to elaborate that. We'll move on. So looks like 53% of everybody here is a safe user and 47% are other. So that's really cool. And there's the results of that. And let's move on. So I do appreciate everybody showing up for the first webinar we're doing in 2024. I almost said 2023, but this is the 2023 Statistical Year in Review. And I am super excited about this. I think I'm excited about most webinars, but today, this one's right in my wheelhouse. I love stats and statistics. I definitely like to use stats and statistics to drive home a point, to help you guys do what you do better. And I think that statistics are a great way to pull that off. So let's dig into it. And we did our intro, and I want to start out with a question, all right? And I'm going to put a poll up here and let everybody answer this question in just a moment, but I want you to think of a person, all right? I'm going to describe a person to you, and I want you to get a mental picture of that person before I ask you to answer the poll, okay? Think about the person that ran the evidence room before you took over, okay? So let's think about that person here. Oh, let me get the screen up here. What would you say is the most significant improvement your predecessor made in the evidence room? Okay. Did they? So you're imagining this person right now, the person you took over for, did they do a good job in the evidence room? Would you say, yes, they were awesome. Yes, they did a good enough job. No, they could have done more, or no, they left a total mess to me. And I'm curious, I think this is a really important question to ask somebody. It has been a long time since I've thrown this out on a poll. And so I'm interested, again, as you think about that person, were they awesome? Did they just do a good enough job? And I'm getting a really even answer to all this. So let me give this another 10 seconds. Most people have answered now. All right, they're rolling in. Some of you had to really think about that. Okay, I'm going to end that, and let me share this poll out to everybody. 18% of people said, yep, they did an awesome job. 35%, they did good enough. 23 could have done more. 24% of you said they left a total mess. And I think that's really interesting to see those results that way. And so I'll lead that into my next question. What do you think your successor will have to say about you? Now, that one hits a lot closer to home. It is a lot easier to answer the previous question when you're thinking about somebody else. And so imagine a couple of years down the road, I'm doing another webinar and I asked that same question, and now they're answering about you. Did you do an awesome job, a good enough? Could you have done more, or they left a total mess? And I think that's really important to think about that. All right. Last question I'm going to ask here. Let me fire this one up. Sorry. Hold on here. I'm trying to get this one to post up. Why can I not get that to post? All right. I don't know why I can't post that. I got everything else to post. Oh, maybe that was it right there. Okay, great. Now we're going to launch this one. So I'm curious. Do you know your disposition rate? I'm getting ready to unload on all sorts of statistics about evidence disposition. And I'm just curious if you know roughly what your evidence disposition rate is, which is ultimately evidence disposition rate is very simply how much do you take in minus how much you disposed divided by that same intake number again. So the answer is you're either one or better, which would be solid. That means you're getting rid of one piece of evidence for everything you bring in, or you get for everyone you bring in, you get rid of one, and then it goes down the line. And so I'm curious, how many of you fit into these different categories? And I want to give you a minute to think about that. So I threw 5 different things on here. And it's looking early on like most people, 33% of you are saying, I get rid of less than 1 out of every 2 that I bring in. So it's that bottom category down there. In fact, out of 100 people that have responded so far, only 18 have said, I get rid of as much as what I bring in. I'm going to end that, and let's show those results up on the screen right there. And the vast majority of you, in fact, over half of you are getting rid of less than 1 for every 2 that you would take in. All right. That's really interesting. All right. So let's get the ball rolling on this, and let's talk about what can we do to understand statistics to drive this home. And I do have a gift that we're going to be giving everybody at the end of this. I have an Excel document that I'm going to share with you that is really, really cool. I spent some time putting that together. But here at Tracker Products, we are committed to the success of your agency's evidence operations. Yes, we do want to sell software. There is no doubt that we are in business to sell software. But the reason we do things like we're doing here today is we want to elevate your thinking primarily. We want to get people thinking differently. We want to help elevate you to higher levels of thinking about how you go about doing what you do. We want to show you how to be in a position where your stats and statistics look maybe way better than they are. In fact, if 50% of you are saying, I get rid of less than 1 out of every 2 that I bring in, that is a train wreck waiting to happen. It may not happen in the next year or 2, but simple math dictates that eventually you're going to run out of space. And I'm not just talking about disposition statistics, while we are going to focus on that here a little bit today. I'm talking about having a solid understanding of all of your organization's statistics, okay? We want you to be efficient, effective, and sustainable. In fact, we probably have clients of ours that are on here today that are not efficient, effective, and sustainable. There is no doubt that we have clients that would have answered that question. I'm getting rid of one out of every 2 items that I'm bringing in or less. Okay. So it is our goal to make everybody efficient, effective, and sustainable. Evidence management, your entire operation certainly is a much larger, complex gear system like this. While we do focus on automation and technology, we want to help all these other areas of your operation. We have got to lift all of them to get you into a position where your stats and statistics look better than they do. So let's unload on what we learned when I did a review of a lot of statistics for 2023. So in our entire secure.trackerproducts.com platform, which is many of you that are on here are in that platform, we have over 381 active agencies inside that product. Out of those 381 agencies, in 2023 alone, we had over 941,000 logins to our system. So the stats that I'm about to unload to you are based on a large quantity of organizations and logins and numbers out of those agencies. Those 941,000 users accounted for 15,000 unique logins in just 2023 alone. And those 381 agencies accounted for 667,000 unique pieces of evidence entered into our product. Okay, so here's a lot of those same numbers that I just shared broken down in an Excel document. And I did do 1 week numbers and fourth quarter numbers, but most people really care about the annualized numbers. A little bit more of a breakdown of that last screen that I shared. Of those 667,000 pieces of evidence that got entered, 116,000 of them, so 1 out of every 6, was a drug-related item. I don't know if that number says a whole lot. I don't know if I expected it to be more or less, but that is what the number is. 10,423 currency items were entered and 25,000 firearms. Those 381 organizations generated over 94,000 tasks in the system. And if you're using our auto dispo feature, you know what a task is, but all of those organizations generated 94,000 tasks. We had 13,601 discrepancy reports completed. So for those of you using our software and you're familiar with doing inventories, those clients did over 13,000 inventory locations last year. These are some phenomenal numbers, and they're growing by leaps and bounds as we add more clients on all the time. Now, of those 381 organizations, I really drilled down and found the 236. So every stat that I'm going to show from here on out are based on 236 law enforcement organizations that had over 100 logins to our software. So it's a subset of the 381. I wanted to get out law enforcement and people that might be doing asset tracking. I wanted to get it down to core law enforcement only numbers. Okay. Of those 236 organizations, 110 of them had the auto dispo feature of our software enabled. 126 did not have that enabled. Okay, so for those of you that may have no idea what I'm talking about, the auto disposition feature of the Safe Evidence product is the feature that essentially automates the entire process of doing disposition. Instead of you sending out mail or emails to people or praying that they're going to respond, it's actually an automated thing that sends out an email to the user. They respond via a task, and your job at that point becomes monitoring all of that communication. The reason I'm throwing that out is because we're going to break down some of the differences that we found between our users that are using auto dispo versus not using them. So not quite half of all of those organizations are even using auto dispo. So what can we learn from that? All right. For the agency, so what I did was I took for the people that are using auto dispo, those 110 organizations, the average amount of items being entered per year is 1,625. And then for those 126 organizations that weren't using auto dispo, the average item entry was 3,633 items. Which what that tells me there is that the larger organizations tend to not be using the auto dispo. I don't know why that is. We're going to keep running with this. So Of those organizations that are using auto dispo and that they're entering 1,625 items on average a year, they are on average disposing of 1,527. And then the organizations that aren't using auto dispo, they're averaging 2,661 items a year. This is not just one or two organizations here. I've got hundreds of organizations that we're getting these numbers for. And this right here is an unbelievably telling number. For the organizations that are using auto dispo, they average a 94% disposition rate. And for those that are not using auto dispo, they are averaging 73% disposition rate. For the first time ever, for many years, I've never had the statistical numbers to drive this home. I can tell you now, beyond a shadow of a doubt, based on a review of 236 law enforcement organizations, that if you are using the auto dispo feature of our software, you will dispose of, on average, 28% more evidence than if you don't. So just imagine for a moment, for everybody listening, imagine you went into your evidence room tomorrow and 30% of your evidence was gone. For those of you that aren't doing auto dispo or not using our software or don't have an automated system, what if tomorrow 30% of your evidence was gone? What would your evidence room look like? Would that make a difference? The answer is assuredly, no doubt that would make a difference. Now, I actually went even further with this because I was like, okay, maybe, what is it possible that maybe some of the smaller agencies are having a much larger impact on this than the larger ones? So then what I did next, I said, all right, let's just take the top 20 organizations in each one of those categories. So I'm talking about the top 20 organizations based on the number of logins to our software. Okay, so the 20 that were auto dispo was turned on, they averaged 5,100 items a year. The ones that were not using auto dispo, they are almost averaging 16,000 items a year. So you can see these numbers right here are shoring up what I showed on the last screen, and that it seems like the bigger the organization, the least likely they are to use auto dispo. I cannot explain that for the life of me, but it's what the numbers show. But now let's look at this. What do they average on disposition? And you know what? It showed the exact same 28%. So even if I got rid of, and so these numbers on this screen right here are 40 of the 236 agencies that were on the last screen. And the disposition numbers show the exact same thing. To me, what that means is I don't care if you're large or you're small or you're in between. If you are using the auto dispo feature of our software, you are going to benefit from having that feature enabled. Okay, so let's keep rolling with this stuff. So again, we go back to the 236 agencies reviewed. Let's look at discrepancy reports. Okay, there were 13,601 discrepancy reports completed. Okay, over 723,000 pieces of evidence were scanned last year. That's incredible. Our system has over 5.7 million active items. So even though I think a lot of people are doing discrepancy reports, out of 5,712,000 active items in our system, only 12.67% of those were inventoried in all of last year. So I would suggest certainly to our clients, auto dispo is primary, but secondary to that is going to be doing a discrepancy report in our software. And so right now, only 12.67% of all active evidence is being inventoried. Okay, let's move on to another really important metric that we track on our end. Okay, every one of our clients has a health grade. All right, now some of them, when we do our annual training classes and our clients come into the room and we're doing training, we share with them what their health grade is. All right, I'm going to share with you health grades from our clients, not individual ones. I'm going to show you the totality of them across everything. All right, so another thing to point out is that a perfect health grade is an 80. we have 10 different factors that go into determining a health grade. So the health grade can be a 0 all the way up to an 80. And so the better you're using our software, the more features you're using, the closer you are, more likely you are to get to an 80. And so if you don't know what your health grade is, we want to share that with you, because we believe when people understand what their health grade is, it may help them drive and be more desiring of getting those grades up. But let's look at those clients. So I'm going back to the 236 clients that we did our evaluation on. 78 of them, 31%, had a health grade of a 30 or less. 22% of them had a 35 to 50, and 117 out of the 236 clients had a 60 to an 80, which we would say is a very solid number. If you are 60 to an 80, you're using the auto dispo feature, you're doing discrepancy reports, you're doing tasking, you're probably doing random inventories, you're doing tagging within our software. And these are all things that are going to lead us to say, hey, you are more likely to be using our system properly. But let's take those numbers and let's break them down and look at the disposition rates of these things. Of those 78 clients that have a less than 30 disposition rate, less than a 30 grade, their average item entry is 1,700. Their average dispo is a little over 1,100, and their dispo rate is a 67. Only one of those 78 clients has auto dispo turned on in our software. Now, I'm about to show you a number that I cannot explain for the life of me, but I'm going to throw it out here. For those 55 clients that had a 35 to 50, their average item entry was 3,100. Their average disposition was 1,000 for a 35% disposition rate. And then the last group, the 117 clients that had, of all those clients, they entered 2,700 items. They disposed of 2,200 for an 80% disposition rate, and 109 of them have auto dispo enabled. So here's the number that I cannot explain, and I looked at this from every angle. It almost looks like on these numbers, if you're going to be bad, you might as well be really bad, because the disposition rate seems like it's almost double for those clients that have less than a 30. I don't know why that is. I really don't, because I would not have expected that. I would have expected the disposition rate to be lower if you have a lower grade. But maybe that means that some of those 78 clients that are up in that top low grade, they have a bad number, but their manual disposition must be off the charts. Maybe that's the best way I can explain that. All right. Max, do we have any? I know I'm moving really fast. Do we have any questions come in we need to address?
So we had one that came in asking if we could provide, and I'm not sure if we're able to do this, but a list of the top 20 agencies that you use for the auto dispo statistics.
Yeah, the only way I could do that is to get permission from every one of those agencies to do that. And that'd probably be a lot to get all of them to say, yeah, they would provide that out. So I don't know. That's something we'll consider for sure. So let's do this. I am going to throw up another poll real quick. And I am curious, what is your disposition methodology right now? Like the first one on there, it's fully automated. I only manage the notices. Number 2 is it's pretty good, but I have to do a lot of work to get disposition done, all the way down to the very bottom option of prayer is your primary methodology for disposition. So I do have some prayers out there. I didn't know if anybody would fill that in, but right now we're running a heavy 10% on people that pray to get their disposition done. I do laugh about that, but I feel for you at the same time, because that has to be overwhelming. I've never run an evidence room, but I run a pretty tight ship here at Tracker Products. And if we were praying to get things done around here, which we do employ that methodology, but I'm just not counting on that to be, we're going to get things done. All right, let me throw up those stats. I've got enough here. So only 10% of you have a fully, that's 105 people responded to that. 9% of you have a fully automated, I only manage the notices. 50% of you, it takes a lot of work to get it done. And then almost 40% of you, it's not very good. And I'm probably just getting by, or it's awful. Okay, that's interesting to see that. So let me stop sharing those results right there. All right. So let's go back. One more thing I want to throw out as far as grades are concerned. The average health grade for clients that do have the auto dispo turned on is a 64.5. Remember, a perfect score is an 80. The average health grade for clients that don't have auto dispo turned on is a 36.9. Which that's not terribly shocking. Having auto dispo enabled is I think 20% of the overall grade for that health grade. So it's a big factor in it. I'm not shocked by that right there. But continuing along, the average, now this is where it tightens up a little bit. The average health grade for the top 20 clients in each category is a 59 with auto dispo and a 49.25 without auto dispo. Those numbers got a lot tighter right there. And I don't know that I expected that specifically, but I'll go back and restate the thing that I stated earlier pretty emphatically. If you are using the auto disposition feature, in fact, if I were to bring clients on here that are using the auto disposition feature, they would probably tell you by and large, it changes my world. It is so significant into how it impacts your operations. If you are a safe user that is not using the auto dispo, I don't know what you got to do to get to that point, but you've got to get it enabled. You've got to get agency buy-in. You have got to get to the point of enabling that, because the idea that you could increase your disposition rate by 28% is not insignificant. That is a really large number. Especially if you're running out of room. If there's somebody on here that if I were to ask what your biggest problem is in the evidence room and your answer is, I'm running out of room, the shelves are full, there's stuff laying on the floor, we've got to build a new building, they won't give me money, I can't get people to help. These are the kind of tools that help get you there. All right. So now let me get into the metrics and what I'm going to share with you. I posted it on the Facebook community group earlier today, but I've got an Excel document that I'm going to share with everybody here. So whether you're a tracker client or a safe client or not, I've got a document, an Excel document that I'm going to give to you that's going to allow you to start plugging in some of your metrics so that you can start producing reports for your organization. You should, okay? Now, I don't have this as a poll, but if I were to ask the question to everybody, do you, on an annual basis, produce evidence room statistics for your chief or your whoever the leadership is in your organization? My guess would be 95% of you would say no. I do not think that's a common thing. I think some of you are, but most of you would not. In fact, most of you probably don't even know what your statistics are to begin with, much less being able to turn them over to leadership, okay? So this document is going to help you get started on that. For those of you that are using safe software, we're going to produce the document that I'm showing to you and send it off so that you can show that to your leadership. And we're going to do that every year for you. So no more of you having to build out what I'm showing you here. You can just send this right off to your leadership, all right? So let me give you what an example organization is going to look like, all right? So the very first statistic, and I think this is the most important one, this is a 5-year inventory of all of your evidence, how much is coming in, how much is going out, and that line up at the top is what is your total inventory. That right there is an unbelievably impactful graph. Imagine for just a moment that, in fact, for many of you, you wouldn't even be able to produce this. Forget that I give you the Excel document. It might take you a month of Sundays to go find the data to produce this thing. And for safe clients, we're going to give you these numbers. Now, I don't know what they're going to show you for your individual organization. If you happen to be one of those that are praying that the dispositions are done, most likely this graph for you is going to be a really high blue bar, a really low orange bar, and that line up at the top is just going to be going straight up. This organization I'm showing here, at the very least, you could see 5 years ago, they had 23,834 items in their inventory. And 5 years later, they had 25,000 items. That means over 5 years, they only added 2,000 items. How many of you would sign up for that right now if in 5 years you could get those numbers right there? And if I did, everybody would raise their hands. There's not a person here that would not take a graph that looks like that right there. That right there. In fact, if I were to look at this graph, your organization, and it looked like this, my response would be, you are, however you're doing it, you are an efficient, effective, and sustainable operation. If your line is going straight up, you are not efficient, effective, or sustainable. And most likely, your successor is not going to have good things to say about you. That's just a reality. Now, you may have a lot of reasons why that is that way, okay? But don't let software be the thing that is standing in between you and getting some of these numbers. These are numbers that our clients can absolutely produce. And I will tell you at the same time, we have clients that are not producing these numbers. That's why we're going to produce them for them and send them this document, and they can choose what to do with it. Okay. So here's another graph that I want to throw out. This is just your intake and disposition. It's a little bit, I don't even know why I've got that one on there. Okay. Let's skip that one. I'm missing some headers. That's my problem. Hold on here. There we go. Let me back up a screen. Hold on. Okay, so this is my drug intake versus disposition. So it's a subset of the last screen. We don't do the total inventory number on this one. We're just showing how many drugs are coming in, how many drugs are going out. The next one is your firearm intake. Again, for all of the safe clients on here, I'm going to send you these graphs with your numbers on them for the last 5 years. If you've been a user of our system for 5 years, if you've only been a user for 1 year, you're going to see a bunch of zeros, and then last year you'll have some numbers on that. But the good news is they'll be accumulating, and over 5 years, you're going to get a better view of these things, okay? Here is my currency intake versus disposition. How much money is sitting in the room, and how much am I getting rid of out of the room? All right, another really cool graph. What is the type of all the evidence that I'm bringing in? So you'll see a breakdown. It'll probably be your top 20 categories. We're not going to, if you happen to be tracking 75 different item types, we're not going to throw all of them on here, but it'll probably be your top 20 categories. And so this is a nice breakdown when you can see what are the larger types of items that you're bringing into your evidence room. Okay. The next one is a month by month breakdown over the last year, just to see how much stuff is coming in on an average month. Do you have any high months of the year? In this case, July and December for this client was a high month, for whatever that means. Okay. So now let's go back to the larger statistics for all the organizations. We had 53 different organizations do discrepancy reports last year, and the total inventory discrepancy was 19,000. I don't even know what, I'm sorry, I've lost track of that number right there. I put these numbers together for so long, I forget. Oh, the inventory scanned versus unscanned. Okay, so for those of you that are doing discrepancy reports, we're still looking at only 19% of the evidence being inventoried, 81% is not. The reason that's a hard number to take on right there is because for most organizations, you probably have a policy that says at the very least, guns, drugs, and monies are inventoried every year. Most organizations will have a policy that all of your evidence will be done at least every 2 years. Many of them will be every year. So these numbers don't tell us that people are keeping up with those numbers on there. And probably a lot of you would say, I don't have time to do inventories. I can't even do disposition, much less getting into inventories. And I would say, I understand. We have got to look at automating different aspects of your system in order to attain higher levels of numbers. Now, I do know there are people on here that are doing way better than that. This was average over a lot of clients. Okay. All right. So another piece of the report that we're going to produce for our clients are statistics on individual users. Since all of this is being provided in an Excel document, there'll be a tab on there where we break down all the users in your organization and what their activity looks like. And because it's on Excel, you'll be able to sort and reorder these things. And you could come up with all sorts of statistical stuff on your own once you've got numbers like these. So that'll be another part of that report. And then the last part of the report will be how many of your users have not logged in the last 180 days, because you need to clear those out of your system and make sure that they're not in the system if they haven't logged in the last 180 days. So we're going to produce statistics on that. Okay, so here's what I'm going to give you. Let me bring up, I've got an Excel document I need to bring up here. And this is what I'm going to send out to everybody. Hold on here 1 second. Okay, and let me get that up here. Okay, so this is the Excel document that I'm going to share with everybody. It's free, no cost to you, you can have it. So what I've done in here is, and you'll notice down at the bottom, there are 6 different tabs that you are able to go in and provide those statistics. Now, again, if I want to repeat, if you're a safe user, you don't even have to do this. We're going to produce this document for you. All right. But if you're not using safe software and you would still like to do this, I will give you this document, and all you do is go up here and you will punch in these numbers up here that are in the yellow boxes. You will put your intake in for all the years, put what your starting inventory was in 2018. And as you go in and do this, watch this. It automatically generates those charts over there. And now you can see that would be a bad organization right there. I bring in 100,000 items every year and I dispose of, in my best year, 20,000 items. And that's what your inventory looks like. That would be really bad. Okay. But I've built this out. All you got to do is punch the numbers in. You'll have all of these, and then you can send this off to your command staff. Now, if you're not a PowerPoint efficient person, I love PowerPoint. So I don't know if you even know this or not, but in PowerPoint, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to create a new slide. Did you know, watch this, that you can take a graph in Excel and just click on it, copy it, come back to PowerPoint and paste it, and it will automatically dump that in there. And now you could create a slideshow for your leadership staff. I don't care how you convey this information. I think it's important to convey it. Now, in reality, probably if your stats aren't very good, you're not going to want to do this. We are trying to, in fact, not trying, we are going to build this out so that new clients coming on board, one of our selling propositions will be to leadership that they can go in and put their email address in to receive this report every year, whether the evidence technician wants it or not to go out. Now, when you hear, some of you heard that and you're like, I don't want that. I'm not going to buy software to enable my leadership to know how poor my operation is. If that is your response to that, which I get it, you may say that, I would say you are setting up a disaster for the next person that comes along. You should desire, maybe not today, maybe it takes a little bit of time. You should desire that your leadership knows the statistics going on in the evidence room. I might also suggest, if you were using our software and this was going to leadership, do you think that these numbers might begin to improve over time because now leadership's going to take a look at it? I would say yes to that. So you may cringe at the idea of leadership seeing these numbers. I'm just telling you, I think you should want to be in a position where that is occurring. So take this document, take the Excel document, turn these numbers into these reports, send them off to your leadership, let them see what's going on. I think another important thing is if the numbers are bad, go back to them and say, hey guys, or women, whatever, these numbers are not sustainable. We are running out of room. And I'm telling you right now, there is a difference in going to your command staff and saying, I got a big problem, I need you to throw money at it, versus, hey, I've got a problem. Here are the statistics to back up that problem. I need your help. If we don't get this under control, in 3 years, I'm telling you, you will have to find a new evidence tech because I'm quitting and we're out of space, by the way. Nobody in leadership wants you coming in and screaming and yelling and demanding money. They want to see this type of stuff and let it make the case why you need more money, more resources, software, whatever the case may be. Use statistics to make your argument for you. Okay, so I think, let me go back here. I want to go into this. Let me see if I got any. I don't think I had anything else on the back end of that. Nope, I didn't. That is the last thing that I wanted to show off. I will have, the one thing that I will have is the email address of everybody that showed up to the webinar today. As soon as you hang up, I will send you an email out with that Excel document on there. If there's anything we can help you out with, and Max, we will do questions because I'm sure you have some in there. If there's anything we can help you with, if you don't have software, if you have an awful disposition process and you just need help, let us know. Respond to that email. I'll get you in touch with the right person. And I'm telling you, if I had done it and shown off the top organizations that are really hammering away at it, you would have seen disposition rates over a 1. It's consistent on those organizations that are using disposition. They have very high numbers when it comes to disposition. Okay, Max, what kind of questions do we got out there?
Yeah, so we had a few come in. The first one from Morgan asking the auto dispo function in safe, questioning whether a new update is available that made it itemized instead of by case.
Yes.
Questioning that and the status of that update.
So I think that I was going to show that off today. The next webinar we are getting ready to roll that out. So it'll be the most significant enhancement that we've ever done to Auto Dispo since we actually rolled the thing out, however many years ago that was. It is shifting from a case goes out for review, an officer responds with just one big note about what's going on with the case. You will have the ability for those notifications to be automated, but they're going to answer disposition questions for every single item, and it can automatically queue it up for disposition. It's unbelievable how this is going to take something that I thought was almost perfect and take it up into a, it's going to bring into it the ability to have supervisors sign off on these things. So maybe you determine, hey, currency is going to have a supervisor sign off on it. It has that escalation and authorization in it. And so you just have to build out that workflow. And now a currency item at 1 year goes out for review. The officer says, yep, get rid of it. Your policy states great. It's got to go to a supervisor. Supervisor signs off on it. Then it just goes into a disposition queue and you load it up and get rid of it because now you got both of the things you need. That's coming up really soon, like within weeks soon. Next question, Max.
Next question. So from Kelly O'Donnell from Minnetonka, she's referring to the top 20 with the health grade, and she volunteered she'd be willing to chat with anyone that wanted to see their processes over at Minnetonka. So we appreciate that, Kelly.
Yep.
Patrick had a statement. Have others also been impacted by the COVID years, holding up case resolutions / dispositions from 2019 through 2022 cases? So that's an interesting point.
So I don't have the exact answer to that. It would be interesting to have everybody respond to that, but here's how I will answer to that. I think that our clients that have a strong disposition rate, I don't think disposition changed largely for them in the last 3 or 4 years. I'm sure there was some impact on it, but because they had a fairly automated process in place, Patrick, I don't know what organization you're with and what you're using for software, but and I will totally agree with this, if your disposition process is very manual and requires a handful of people to respond to every disposition, there's no doubt I would imagine that COVID would have greatly impacted what they're doing. Because now maybe they're not in the offices often, whereas within our system, every officer in the organization is taking part in the disposition process. I would want to know a lot more about your details, but I think largely that would be my answer to that. All right, Max.
Excellent. Okay, so a couple comments, not questions from Guy. So Guy is a big fan of Auto Dispo and also said, unfortunately, they had to go away from Tracker and go to Cody, and just an endorsement for Tracker software. So we appreciate that, Guy. Yeah. Dana is asking if she can request stats for a different item that's not already included. So she's stating that the state recently enacted a law that all sexual assault kits have to be kept for 75 years. So that would be a good one to show a number for storage purposes.
Let me do this, Dana. My goal right now is just to get this report out to everybody, and it is a bit of manual work to produce it all. When we get it all automated, we'll build that out and make that better over time. Right now, I just got to get the thing started. Thank
Excellent.
you for that.
Just reading through these, it looks like there's a question about if there will be a new widget for the 5-year dispo stats.
Yeah, I need to get that. I do need to get that on there, but that is not on there right now. So that right now, the widget is going to be me sending you out the Excel doc with it on there. But I would agree that would be a very good widget within our software for sure.
Excellent. I think
See, I throw this stuff out and everybody's already 20 steps ahead of me. So one thing is for certain, thinking up ideas is way easier than developing them. So our development team is so busy right now trying to get new stuff out. As you guys know, for those of you that are safe clients, we're sending out emails all the time with updates. And so I hope you appreciate those updates that are coming out because we got a lot of them going on. Okay.
Absolutely. And I
think
we
we're at the
addressed all
45
those.
minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're at the 45-minute mark. So I'm going to wrap this up, but I do, for everybody that came, again, I'll send you out the email with the Excel documented. If there's anything we can help you with, if you've got questions, let us know. We can help you out with. And for all the safe clients that are out there that are going to wait on this report to come, you're going to have to give us a couple of weeks to get all this together. We're working on all that right now, but we will get those to you. All right. Everybody have a great day. Thank you for coming to the webinar. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you on whenever the next one is. Have a great day.